There is a version of cancer living inside almost every adult body right now, and it will never hurt you. It has no ability to grow, no ability to spread, no ability to become a diagnosis. It stays smaller than a grain of sand, sometimes for an entire lifetime, trapped in a kind of biological silence. So sit with this question for a second. What decides whether that microscopic cluster of abnormal cells stays frozen forever, or wakes up and becomes the disease we fear most? It isn't genetics alone. It isn't either. It comes down to a switch inside your body that controls whether tumors get fed or starved. And some of the food sitting in your kitchen right now may be quietly influencing that switch every single day. This is the world of angiogenesis, your body's process for building new blood vessels. It sounds technical, but the idea is simple enough for a child to grasp. Every tissue, healthy or diseased, needs blood to survive. Blood, oxygen, it carries nutrients. Without it, cells suffocate. A tumor with no blood supply of its own isn't the monster we imagine. It's closer to a seed trapped in dry soil, unable to grow past the size of a pinhead. But the moment new blood vessels reach in and connect to it, everything changes. That same microscopic cluster can multiply thousands of times over in a matter of weeks. This discovery reshaped modern medicine. For decades, researchers worked to design drugs that could cut off that blood supply before it ever formed, essentially starving abnormal growth before it became a threat. Some of those drugs are now standard cancer treatments used in hospitals worldwide. But here's the part that rarely makes headlines. When scientists applied those same lab techniques to ordinary food, they found something worth paying attention to. Dozens of everyday foods appear to influence this same blood vessel limiting process, nudging the body's own defenses without the side effects that come with pharmaceuticals. Picture a lab technician testing cutting-edge compounds, measuring how well each one blocks new blood vessels from feeding abnormal cells. Now picture slipping a simple cup of green tea into that same test, without telling anyone what it actually is. In experiments resembling this exact scenario, green tea polyphenols performed so effectively that researchers assumed they were looking at an expensive synthetic drug. The compound responsible, EGCG, is one of several plant molecules now being studied for how they interfere with the signals tumors use to recruit blood vessels in the first place. Green tea isn't alone in this. Resveratrol, found in red wine and grape skins, appears to work through a similar pathway. So does genistein, a compound abundant in soy, and this one deserves a pause, because soy has been caught in years of confused headlines, some calling it a hormone disruptor, others an anti-nutrient. Much of that confusion comes down to basic biochemistry getting lost in translation. The plant compounds in soy, called phytoestrogens, are structurally nothing like human estrogen. Some research suggests they may occupy estrogen receptors in a way that blocks the stronger effects of the body's own estrogen, while independently helping limit blood vessel growth in certain hormone-sensitive cancers. It's a strange twist. A food feared for its hormonal risk may actually be working in the opposite direction. Tomatoes bring lycopene, the pigment behind their deep red color, into this same conversation. And blueberries tell an even stranger story, one that links two ideas people usually treat as opposites: boosting immunity and calming inflammation. The blue pigment in blueberries, anthocyanin, has been studied for its ability to activate T cells and natural killer cells, the frontline defenders your immune system relies on. In some studies, regular blueberry intake was linked to a meaningful rise in these protective cells. Athletes who eat blueberries consistently tend to carry a kind of baseline immune readiness, not because the fruit enhances performance directly, but because it may help keep the immune system primed rather than sluggish. Here's the twist nobody expects. That same anthocyanin pigment that revs up immune activity also appears to calm inflammation. For years, wellness culture has treated those two goals as contradictions: boost immunity here, suppress inflammation there. But inflammation isn't the enemy of immunity. It's a subset of it, a controlled emergency response that only turns harmful when it runs unchecked for too long. A food capable of sharpening immune defense while quieting chronic inflammatory noise isn't picking a side. It's helping the body find balance, which is really what long-term health has always been about. Now pause for a second and think about your own plate this week. How many of these foods have already passed through your kitchen without you knowing what they were quietly doing inside you. That's the part of this story most people never get told. Broccoli deserves its own moment here, mostly because of a compound almost nobody's heard of. Sulforaphane is the natural chemical behind broccoli's sharp, distinctive flavor, and it shows up across the cruciferous family, kale, Swiss chard, and others. It's been linked to increased T-cell activity, reinforcing that same frontline immune defense. But here's a detail almost nobody mentions. The stem, the part most people trim off and toss in the bin, contains roughly twice the sulforaphane concentration found in the florets. Blended into a simple vegetable soup, that waste becomes one of the most concentrated parts of the plant. If you want to see this compound at its most potent, though, forget mature broccoli entirely. Look at broccoli sprouts, the tiny 3 to 4 day old seedlings that look nothing like the vegetable they'll eventually become. Gram for gram, these sprouts have been measured with dramatically higher sulforaphane levels than the grown plant, in some analyses close to 100-fold. In one notable study involving healthy young adults receiving a flu vaccine, those who also consumed a broccoli sprout preparation showed a substantially stronger immune response than those who didn't, described in the research as more than 20 times greater. That's not difference. That's the kind of number that quietly rewrites what we assumed about the relationship between simple food choices and immune resilience. At this point, a fair question shows up. If food can meaningfully influence something as significant as blood vessel formation and immune activation, why isn't this common knowledge? Part of the answer isn't biology at all, it's psychology. Most nutrition advice has historically been built on restriction. What to eliminate, what to fear, what to feel guilty about. And human nature does not respond well to deprivation. Tell someone they can never eat a certain food again, and that food often becomes more desirable, not less. That's not a character flaw. It's a well-documented psychological pattern, one traditional diet culture has largely ignored in favor of fear-based messaging that leaves people ashamed rather than empowered. A more useful approach flips the entire framework. Instead of asking what to remove, ask what to add. Hundreds of foods are now understood to support the body's natural defense systems, and the odds are good that several of them are already foods you genuinely enjoy. That reframing matters more than it seems. When people discover that something they already love eating is quietly working in their favor, they don't need willpower to keep eating it. They need permission to feel good about a habit they already have. And on the days someone eats something less beneficial, which every person does, the goal isn't guilt. A body consistently nourished with protective foods has more resilience to absorb the occasional indulgence, without it undoing months of good habits. This whole idea rests on 5 interconnected systems inside the human body, each one a natural defense mechanism refined over millions of years of evolution. The regulation of blood vessel growth, the renewal capacity of stem cells, the balance of the gut microbiome, the protection and repair of DNA, and the strength of the immune system itself. Nearly every food with documented health benefits appears to support at least one of these 5 pillars, and many support several at once. Take the kiwi, a fruit most people underestimate simply because of how unassuming it looks. Beneath that fuzzy brown skin is a fruit dense in vitamin C and fiber, 2 nutrients working through completely different pathways. Vitamin C acts as a powerful antioxidant, neutralizing the unstable molecules known as free radicals before they can damage the DNA inside your cells. In research examining daily kiwi intake, eating just 1 kiwi a day was associated with a notable drop in measurable DNA damage, in some studies around 60%. Increase that to 3 kiwis daily, and researchers observed signs that the body's DNA repair mechanisms became more active, helping reverse existing damage by a similar margin. That's a striking finding for a fruit most people treat as an afterthought in a smoothie. The fiber in kiwi tells a second story, one connected to the trillions of bacteria living inside your digestive tract. This ecosystem, the gut microbiome, has been linked in recent research to everything from immune regulation to mood and mental clarity. Kiwi fiber acts as a prebiotic. It doesn't introduce new bacteria, it feeds the beneficial species already living in your gut. A study conducted in Singapore found that eating even a single kiwi could begin shifting the balance of gut bacteria toward healthier populations in as little as one night. One fruit. One night. a measurable shift inside one of the most complex ecosystems in the human body. What makes information like this genuinely powerful is that it tends to stick. Once you understand what's happening at a cellular level, every time you eat a handful of blueberries or slice open a kiwi, it's hard to look at that food the same way again. The goal was never to memorize a list of superfoods. It was to build an instinct, a quiet, automatic awareness that shows up naturally at the grocery store, in the kitchen, at a restaurant table, without needing willpower to switch it on. None of this replaces medical care, and no single food should ever be treated as a cure, a guarantee, or a substitute for professional guidance. Human biology is intricate, individual, and still only partially understood, and real health decisions deserve conversations with qualified professionals, not viral claims. But there's something quietly profound in realizing the human body was never a passive, defenseless system waiting for disease to arrive unchallenged. It comes equipped with its own protective architecture, built over millions of years of adaptation, and every meal is a small opportunity to work with that architecture instead of against it. The next time you slice a tomato, brew a cup of green tea, or toss broccoli stems into a pot instead of the trash, you're not just eating, you're quietly taking part in one of the oldest defense systems your body has ever known.